Ladies and gentlemen, happy Friday and welcome back to the wait a second. This is not the Undefeated Post-Weigh In Show, but we're back next week, baby. MMA starts, new game, starts Monday. That's not today. We got a special little treat for you today. So for those of you who don't know, with the sport growing as big as it is, and with all the attention that we're getting these days, also with the awesome sponsorship I brought to the table with none other than SuperBook Sports, we've got futures odds. Today we are going to chat with none other than the man himself, the guy who sets the lines across the desk, my guy Andrew from SuperBook Sports, and we're going to be going over the odds available at SuperBook Sports for next year's champion. If you think about it in terms of other sports, it's like betting who's going to win the Super Bowl before the season starts. We're going to be looking for January 1st, 2024, who's going to have the belt wrapped around their waist, and see if we can find some spots we want to bet. Andrew, how you doing today, my guy?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to kick off the new year, get ready for some fights. I know we got some big cards coming up, and it's our second year doing these futures, so I'm excited to see some more bets coming in on them this year. We got some already. Looks like people are pretty excited about them, and yeah, we're excited too.
It's a cool idea. I love it. You know, the more things we can find to sling action around on, the more fun the degenerates like myself have doing this kind of thing. So tucking a little $20 bet away on somebody to be champ and sweating it every single fight all year. Sounds like a good time, man. We're going to pick and poke through these here. And as usual, let us know if you know of anybody that made any bets that we should hear about. Otherwise, you set the lines. So, you know, if you want to justify why you think somebody is a number, we can get into all that good stuff too. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on this little stream this afternoon. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. And of course, if you're not betting with SuperBook Sports, you better go over there and make an account, because we're going to find some spots we like today. Let's get straight on into it. Andrew, what we've got here is the SuperBook Sports layout, and we're going to start at heavyweight. That's where we're going here. Now, everybody, if you're not familiar with SuperBook Sports, the UFC odds, they've got this little tab right up here at the top. Most of the lines are under bounce. You tab to the center. That'll be the UFC futures that we are talking about today. And then, of course, the speculative potential future bouts over to the right. We're going to stick right here in that middle column. What we've got is Francis Ngannou, the reigning champ, sitting at 3-2 odds. John Jones, the shortest underdog that you can find here, it looks like, at plus 275. And then you've got guys like Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, the who's who, the usuals. We do have my guy Alexander Volkov rocking the 60-1. Jailton Almeida, who's making a splash this year, also at 60-1. Tom Aspinall hoping for a comeback. Sergey Spivak is listed on here, as well as long shots like Derek the Black Beast Lewis and Alexander Romanov. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand this one. I absolutely get why Francis Ngannou is the chalk in this situation. A lot of people expected Cyril Gane to take him out. You know, we'd have a new champion by now already. The John Jones news, he's been talking about coming back for 3 years, man. I'm still not convinced it's ever even actually going to happen, but I get why he's a short number. If he does make some kind of a splash at heavyweight, it wouldn't be too hard to see him debuting in a number one contenders matchup, or even in the title fight straight away. I definitely think, based on the numbers that we're looking at, Sergey Pavlovich and Cyril Gane are probably the two most interesting from a betting perspective here, in my opinion. Do you feel pretty strongly about Francis Ngannou working out the contract details and coming back from injury and remaining champion through 2024?
So this is definitely a weight class where I feel like we're kind of the least sure of what's going to happen, because like you said, we're not even sure if he's going to what's going on with the contract situation. We don't really know who the number one contender is. who would fight him if he does come back and fights. So this is actually the weight class where we've seen the most action so far, because it feels like it's kind of up in the air. We took a few bets on Pavlovich. We opened that at 8-1. We're sitting 6-1 now. So it seems like he's got some traction behind him, and I can see it, because he can knock out anybody. We also took a pretty big bet on Stipe at 20-1. Or no, at
Interesting.
25-1. Now we're sitting 20-1. A weird one for me, in my opinion. I really like this Almeida kid, but I don't know I know he's fighting his next fight at heavyweight, but is he a light heavyweight or is he a heavyweight? And that makes it tough as well for him. So
yeah, we can't figure that out either.
Yeah, because that's somebody, if I was to bet somebody, I mean, I really think he's got a good chance at really either of the weight classes. But I mean, I see him more as a light heavyweight, so we have him much lower in the light heavyweight division, but I know his next fight is scheduled in the heavyweight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's funny. He keeps playing around at heavyweight, taking these short notice fights, but he's claiming to be a light heavyweight. So I'm not sure, man. He really could go either way. It'll be curious to see what they do with Jailton Almeida in the future here, because he's chipping away at it, man. He's working his way nearly into the rankings at heavyweight just by goofing off and taking short notice fights. So definitely curious to see on that one. I personally, I mean, if I was going to make a bet on this one, I definitely would be looking, like I said, at either Cyril Gane for that rematch with Ngannou, making some adjustments. He's young. You know, he hasn't been in the game as long. We knew that coming in. He's going to learn from that experience with Francis Ngannou and come back probably stronger. And then Sergey makes a ton of sense to me. He is on an absolute heater right now. There's only a few guys that I talk about having death touch. Sergey's absolutely proven to be one of those guys. And something that people may not realize, he's got some wrestling in his back pocket. Like, I even myself was like, well, maybe if he, matches up with like a Curtis Blades or somebody who might be able to take him down. No, the dude's got a wrestling background. Like, he's got that box checked as well. We just have never seen it. So if you were going to take a speculative shot, I do think that those two guys are probably where it's at. Frankly, man, I don't understand the Stipe bet. I think Stipe's time is come and gone. He fights once a year now, maybe. Like, I don't see him getting the belt back personally.
Yeah. I mean, he's a big name, so I guess if he wins a fight, he would probably be in line to get another title shot. So I'm assuming that's why they made the bet.
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised when I saw it as well, but it was a bigger bet, one that we kind of had to take notice, because I mean, those are pretty long odds, so it adds up quickly.
That's there definitely are some long odds. You guys can have some exposure there real quick if he goes on a late career heater here all of a sudden. All right, everybody in the chat, of course, your opinions matter on this show, so jump in if you have an opinion. Let us know if there's a bet that you particularly like. We'll go ahead and move right along. I'm going to go ahead and expand this here. We will look at our light heavyweight odds in this spot. We've got Magomed Ankalaev as the 2-1 favorite. Jamal Hill, the 7-2. I guess second in line, just, a little bit. Jiri having matching numbers. Jan 5-1. Glover is 10-1, which I find interesting. So these numbers are fun to talk about, because we've got some serious movement in this division, man. Jiri, if he comes back this year as the champion who stepped away, we'll get an immediate title shot. So getting something like 7-2 on Jiri, which is, for those of you who don't want to do the math, basically like plus 350, that would be an interesting spot, because if he heals up, if he comes back, that's going to be the guy that gets into a title fight, and we've seen what he's capable of. Now, Jamal Hill and Glover are fighting for the belt very soon here, right around the corner. Even though one of those guys is going to get the strap, you still think that Magomed Ankalaev is going to be champion by the time 2024 rolls around. Is that right?
I mean, I think he should be the champion right now, personally.
Okay.
That was a close fight. I think he won it. I don't know it was kind of weird after the fight when he was talking about his contract situation as well. I think stylistically he's a good matchup against any of those guys in the top right now, and I think he should be the favorite, but it's only 2-1 right now because we don't really know his situation. I know Dana was pretty frustrated after that last fight, and he's not going to get this next title shot, but I think one more win, he's back in line for a title shot, and I think he matches up pretty well with those other guys. And honestly, Glover, at 10-1, who knows what he's going to do at this age? But right now, that fight with Jamal Hill is pretty close to a pick. So I wouldn't be shocked if we took some Glover bets. We did take a bet on Rakic. I know he's coming off of a bad injury, and he had a lot of steam before that injury. So that's really the only notable bet we've gotten so far. But yeah, we didn't move anything off of it, and it's going to be tough for the guy to get a title shot this year. If I had to say, I mean, coming off an ACL, I think it will be tough to get back and fight more than once this year. But I mean, I've been wrong before. I was shocked last year with some of the outcomes.
I hear you. Yeah, and he's ranked 5th right now, which is surprising to me. Man, I'm a known Rakic hater. I think he's a little overblown. I don't think he would be top 5 if the division was a little bit deeper. So I personally, I wouldn't think too much of that one myself. But like you mentioned, I've been wrong a lot before. Ryan Spann at 50-1. If his whole story about like never having trained before his last fight, not taking a fight camp seriously until his last fight, like if that's true, if that's accurate, then maybe 50-1 on Ryan Spann wouldn't be a bad flyer. And Glover Teixeira, honestly, man, I've hit the point where I am done doubting this man. I never thought he was going to have the type of fight that he did with Jiri last year.
Yeah.
I was a huge Glover fan. I bet him as an underdog all the way up until the title. And then I went, you know what? He's old. The buck stops here. This is where it's finally too much. He can't hang with these young bucks. He's too old. The damage on his body, his chin issues, like it's just going to finally all mount up and be a problem. He's proven to us time and time again that that's just not the case. So getting 10-1 for one more year worth of competition out of Glover, he might hang him up after his next fight. He legitimately
I think so as well.
It's hard to argue a guy of that caliber at that number if you were just looking for a flyer.
Right.
Realistically, I think Magomed Ankalaev and Jamal Hill are on a crash course, man. I think Jamal beats Glover his next time out. And then I think Magomed gets back in Dana's good graces with one win, and those two fight probably at the end of the summer or something like that. And we get our winner out of one of those two. I would be very interested in the Jamal Hill at plus 350. That doesn't sound like a bad shot to me because, like you said, it's a pick-em price tag. I think he beats Glover. I think he beats Magomed. I think the hand speed and his get-up game are really underrated. So I'm kind of expecting Jamal to be the champ here for the next year. That's where I'd be looking in this spot.
Right. I like it. He's definitely good for the sport. This year's last year was definitely a weird year where I feel like there was a lot of new champions at the end of the year, which is not super typical in the sport, but it's fun because it's so unpredictable what's going to happen. I
agree. I love it, man. It's so much more fun when you don't know who's going to be the champ at the end of the week, seeing these invincible fighters like Usman and Israel Adesanya, going down and seeing who's going to step up and take that next slot. Like that's all exciting and interesting to me. And we'll be able to talk about their divisions here in just a sec. But I do have one real quick question for you though. These bets are marked here, not interim. So with everything going on these days and the interim title fights and all that kind of stuff, champions stepping down, the Jiri situation, did these bets, let's say you had Magomed Ankalaev to be the champion on January 1st, 2023, and right now the belt is vacant. Is that a push?
Yeah.
Like if somebody comes in and makes that bet right now and there's no champion, or if it's an interim situation, does the bet just get voided?
Yeah, that's what happened last year. I felt bad. I mean, we had some bets on Ankalaev last year, and those guys had to be pretty frustrated because just got their money back. And that was a frustrating situation. But really, we just do the no interim because there's always injuries in the sport. And if there's two title holders, we don't want to have to pay out multiple guys.
For sure.
But yeah, if there's no champion at the end of the year, of course, we're going to avoid it.
Okay. Just so everybody knows the rules before they come to play, I want to make sure we know. All right. Next up, we've got middleweight. This one's going to be fun. Israel Adesanya, Khamzat Chimaev, and Alex Pereira all on the top line here, man. 5-2 for Izzy, Khamzat, and then 3-1 for Alex to still be the champion by the end of the year. I can't wait to talk about it. This is maybe the most fun division on the board right now. Hamzat's another one of those super interesting situations where, frankly, I think he belongs down at welterweight and he should be competing for the title down at welterweight. But you have no idea what's going to be going on with him with this whole bouncing around between weight classes, people not accepting fights. Like, that's a mess of a situation. And then you've got Robert Whittaker, who is always right around the corner. Bo freaking Nickel at 14-1, who just made it to the UFC off the Contender Series. For him to rise all the way up to a title fight and take the strap faster than somebody like Hamzat did last year, 14-1, I think, is an interesting number on Bo Nickel. And then Roman Dolidze on an absolute tear right now. Dricus du Plessis at 50-1, who's been on a mission. And then you've got really interesting prospects, guys like Marvin Vettori at 50-1, Andre Muniz at 80-1, and someone who's going to be fighting pretty soon here, Nasruddin Imavov at 80-1. But then you got my boy. Now, I know you put this line up here just for me, Andrew. I know this line was only put up here because you and I are doing this show. But Chris the Action Man Curtis at 150-1. I love it.
I had to get him in there for you.
I love it, man. No, I really like the way that you guys set this one up because, frankly, those top couple of names are coin flippy, right? Like Israel Adesanya finally looked human in his last fight against Alex Pereira. Pereira just seems to have his number. I kind of feel like it's a paper, rock, scissors situation. And I made a bold claim last year that I was like, you know what? If Alex Pereira does become the champion, then our next champ is going to be Marvin Vettori. I said that because
I remember that. No, I do remember that.
Yeah. I think that a guy with that heavy wrestling pressure is going to be the answer. Now, obviously, since that statement, Alex Pereira has shown us that he's been working with Glover, his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu chops. They're getting better and better every single time he steps in the cage. So I'm not quite sure the path is as easy as I thought it may have been before. And I'm wondering if somebody like Bo Nickel may be a better option because he's such a high caliber grappler. I mean, frankly, man, if I was going to take a shot, those would be the two places that I would be looking. A small flyer on Marvin Vettori at 50-1, and then probably a more solid flyer on someone like Bo Nickel at 14-1, because you know the UFC is going to want to capture the hype of this guy.
Right. I mean, and we were kind of shown it's possible to get a title shot as quick as 1 year with Alex Pereira getting his title shot this last year. No one was really expecting him to get pushed into that spot so quickly. Mm-hmm. We're a little bit different in our price than some of the other books that are putting this up because we believe that Hamzat stylistically is a terrible matchup for some of these guys at the top.
Agreed.
So we're a little bit higher on him than some of the other books. I believe it's because they believe he, like you said, he should be in the welterweight, but with the weight issues, I think he would fit right in and he could really push for the title right away in middleweight. I wouldn't be shocked if they gave him that opportunity pretty quickly. My guy, Bo Nickel, I had to get him pretty low on there because I think, like you said, they're going to push him pretty quickly. I know we took a bet on Pereira so far, a decent size, which obviously you can't hate. He's the champion right now. I wouldn't be shocked if he held it. I saw some action on Muniz. It sounds like some people think he's going to make a little run this year. I don't know how much the UFC is going to push him. It seems like they haven't done the greatest job in doing that thus far, but like stylistically, he's another guy that's just a tough matchup for any of those guys up top. Yeah,
agreed.
This weight class feels very wide open. It really does.
It really does. Now that Israel Adesanya looks human, this weight class is very, very interesting. Andre Muniz, I'm glad you mentioned that because honestly, man, at those odds, that's another flyer price tag. He's ranked number 11 right now, which honestly kind of crazy to me that Dricus is ranked 10 over him already. That's just, the hype machine and the way the UFC rankings work. I think Muniz probably deserves to be ranked higher than him and maybe even higher than Roman Dolidze, who's sitting at number 8 right now. The rankings are a mess in this weight class, in my opinion. But I would be looking at, like I said, maybe a guy like Marvin Vettori at number 4, because if we're talking, these guys fight maybe twice a year, 2, maybe 3 times a year, something times, like that.
Yeah, 2
so
to 3 times.
Is somebody going to go, even with the hype, like we just saw it with Hamzat, is Bo Nickel going to go from unranked to title in 1 year? The only reason Alex Pereira did that, in my opinion, was because he has the history with Izzy. So I don't know if anybody else is going to move quite that quickly. So just something to bear in mind for people, the way the year is going to kind of pan out here. Nothing wrong with betting on the champion to stay the champion when he's proven he just beat the #1 guy in the world. But frankly, I think the guys that have the best shot to beat him would be these heavy grapplers, Marvin Vettori, Bo Nickel. I don't know about Roman, but, Andre Muniz, those would be the guys that I would be looking to throw a couple shekels at here and see if they could get the belt.
I like it. I like where your head's at on this class. It's going to
fade the chalk for me, man. Fade the chalk.
Yeah.
All right, next one up. We're looking at the welterweight situation, which, again, there's a familiar name here, Khamzat Chimaev, at slightly tastier odds, 9-2 for Khamzat down here at welterweight. Usman is the plus 175 favorite after having just lost his title. Leon Edwards, the seeded champion, as the 3-1 favorite. You've got Colby Covington at 8-1, Shavkat Rakhmonov at 10-1, Bilal the Bully at 12-1, and then things get insane. My guy Gilbert Burns at 40-1, who, frankly, I love the guy. I'm super excited about him. His skill set's incredible. He's going to give everybody a tough fight. I don't think he's ever touching this belt. Masvidal, I don't think we're going to see him out of prison this year. 60-1 seems like here, hold your money type of situation. Jeff Neal, Jack Della, I think, is very intriguing. However, I also think he's similar to the last weight class we talked about. I don't think he's going to touch gold this year. That would be like a 2024 type of bet for me, that I think Jack Della might be around the corner in a year or so. Then you got Michelle Pereira, Sean Brady, Conor McGregor at 100-1. You had to throw him in there, didn't you?
Had to. If anybody's tempted.
McGregor, absolutely got to stick that name in there. Why not, man? You should just put him in every single weight class. You should give McGregor odds in every weight class on the board.
Not a bad idea. I got Wonder Boy in there too.
Somebody will be like, oh yeah, McGregor said he's moving up to 185. It'll happen. No, man, I love this division. Much like the last one, champion loses his belt, feels much more wide open. I think Khamzat is much more suited at welterweight. I think Khamzat beats either Usman or Leon Edwards when he gets the crack. So, that would be definitely the direction that I'd be looking. I've lost faith in Colby, especially with how inactive he is. Even if he does get a fight and a win this year, I'm not sure they're going to give him a title fight right away. He's just been on the sidelines for way too long. Shavkat Rakhmonov and Bilal Muhammad are the two that really would have my attention peaked. Now, I think Bilal is a worthy challenger, and I actually think he gives problems to almost everybody at the top of this division. I just don't know that the UFC is ever going to give him the title shot. I feel like he's going to get to that #1 contenders fight, and they'll give him whoever the hottest murderer at the time is to try and get him to buff up the resume of the next guy. You know what I mean? I don't know that they're ever going to let him get to that title. So maybe at 12-1, just saying he gets a chance at it is not a bad idea, because I think he's got the skills to do it. Shavkat, I think, is maybe the most interesting bet on the board here at 10-1, because he does have some hype around him. Yeah, he doesn't have, a big following at this point. He doesn't talk a lot or anything like that, but he's low-key maybe the most dangerous guy on this list, and he is working his way through the rankings just by choking people out in the first round relatively quickly and easily. Looking at the numbers, Shavkat's ranked number 10, so he is within that striking distance that I kind of would look at to make a bet like this. Bilal at number 4, like I said, that's not bad, because he's going to become undeniable. If he wins one more fight, he probably is relatively undeniable, but it comes down to what shakes out with Khamzat, because they want Khamzat to have a belt. Does he fight at 185? Does he fight at 170? We're not sure. Are they running it back with Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards? We're not sure. Are they gonna throw freaking Masvidal in there because of the 3-piece and a soda thing they should have capitalized on 5 freaking years ago and had a massive pay-per-view fight with a huge storyline? I'm not sure what they're gonna do. So this division is another one that feels relatively wide open, but maybe a little chalk heavy. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Leon and Kamaru, respectively, fight once this year, and one of them ends up with the belt next year.
Yeah, that's why those two are the favorite. Obviously, that this, like you said, this weight class is really wide open. I know us with Masvidal at 60-1 is a little risky, because we read about him possibly getting that title shot.
You're safe.
That I mean, yeah, anything can happen. But if he got a title shot and you had 60-1 odds on that, I mean, it'd be a nice little flyer. I don't see how they could push him out of all these other guys. Like you said, Shavkat, Bilal. How do you push a guy like Masvidal in front of those guys? But, I mean, it's the UFC. They're going to do what makes them money. Hamzat's up in there. I know we wouldn't have this price on him if we knew what weight class he was going to be competing at, like for the title. I know they were talking about getting a Hamzat fight with Colby. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. I don't believe. But that one would be, yeah. If I was going to bet anybody, I'd obviously think Hamzat is the worst matchup for all of these guys. But it's just such a flyer because we don't know what weight class he's in. It looks like our odds on this one have been pretty good. This weight class hasn't gotten too many bets yet, which is pretty surprising. Maybe when we know more what's going on with Usman's hand. But yeah, right now it feels pretty open, and yeah, there's been no bets so far, really. No big bets.
Yeah, Mark with an interesting comment saying that with Usman's hand injury, I could see them moving that fight to July, and then likely they won't fight again until 2024. And for me, that would be the fear. I would be looking at Shavkat. I'd be looking at Bilal. But if you're looking to actually hold a winning ticket, Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman might be the two that you want to look at just to say, man, they're going to fight each other. They're going to run back the immediate title fight, and then both of them are going on vacation afterwards. So you're probably going to get your winner for the year right out there on that one. So good luck if you bet this weight class. Andrew, I would be very much like everybody else and waiting to see some news and whether or not there's going to be any movement, because it's been long enough. We should know and be able to expect maybe when the fight's going to happen at this point, and that ain't happening. So we'll have to just kind of sit tight on this one. But I do think that Shavkat and Bilal are probably the two that I would take flyers on if I was going to bet anything. All right, lightweight up next, folks. The premier weight class in the UFC, or at least it used to be. It was for a couple of years, really strong there. Islam Makhachev is a minus 185 favorite to still be holding the belt at the start of next year. And frankly, that's hard to argue with. You know, he's taking on Alexander Volkanovski, 92 odds on Volk to still be the champion. You got Charlie O, the former champion, at 12-1, which sounds sexy. And then guys like Benny, Dustin, Arman, Gaethje, Fiziev. These are all the kinds of guys, again, you'd want to take kind of a flyer on. Like, I'm in love with some Jalen Turner, 60-1 for Jalen Turner to go on a heater and get out there and choke out a couple people. That sounds like some fun to me. Arman Tsarukyan being maybe the one guy who can out-grapple Islam Makhachev. Maybe that's the move for me. Just take a shot at those wild odds, because frankly, I think you got it right. Like, I don't want to doubt Volkanovski. I really don't. He is one of the pound-per-pound goats. But I think at a certain point, size matters. And I think Islam's wrestling is going to hold up. Oh, shit. My guy's sparring with reality in the chat saying, call me square. I took some minus 175 on Islam. I'm right there with you, buddy. I think that's the move. Lay it with the chalk on this one. I'm usually anti-chalk in my life, especially with futures bets. You don't want to lay that kind of a price tag. But who beats Islam, man?
Right. I'm with you. I mean, it feels like we can't stay high enough on that number. Obviously, the featherweight weight class is on hold with what's going on with Volk. If he wins, that's going to change those. So we don't even have the featherweight open. It feels like there's some good guys in this weight class to maybe throw a flyer on, but it's like then when you put them up against Makhachev, are they really great flyers at that point? We took some bets on Fiziev. We took a bet on Dustin Poirier as well. We took some bets on Islam to retain. But other than that, I just don't know who matches up well against Islam.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't really think anybody does. Like, Charles held his own long enough in there. I think you've got to have that wrestling ability. Guys that are underrated, like Benny, who reminds me, frankly, a lot of what was going on a couple weight classes back. He just isn't enough of a personality, even though he's got all the skills, even though he's got everything you would need. I don't think they ever give him a crack at the belt. Arman Tsarukyan, he is a young gun. He is a hot prospect. Maybe Arman Tsarukyan can hang with him. We'll see. But again, I don't know if he gets there this year. Got to mention good old Conor McGregor at 100-1. God bless you. He's not anywhere near this situation. And then Patty at 200-1. Don't make me giggle. I know I'm rocking the Patty the Batty shirt, but like, come on.
Feels like a bad matchup for Patty.
Yeah, but I mean, did you get the big boys in from Barstool? Did they roll down and put some down on their boy? Like,
I don't know if they believe in him that much, but I think we're pretty open for business on Patty. But we had to get him on there. I mean, I'm a fan. He's great for the sport. It just I don't know how he could be anybody listed above him, like right now where he's at.
If he has a ceiling, man, maybe in a couple of years. Right now, it's gonna take some time. Don't bet on Patty to win the belt at 155 in 2024, please, people. Keep your money in your pockets. I would, again, this is another situation. I would take a flyer on a guy like Jalen Turner, somebody who's got cheat codes. You know, he's just so big. He's so long. He's got the jiu-jitsu. Maybe Armin. Yeah, Reggie Panda in here. Armin's the future champ, but not this year. That's kind of how I feel too. If I was going to take a flyer, those would be the two guys I would take flyers on, because all the other guys, frankly, are old news or not hyped enough. And then Islam is just the man. Lay it with Islam. Yeah. I do think he's probably still champ at the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, how much do things get shaken up if Volk is a hero and can dethrone the king? I mean, that changes everything.
Honestly, I hope we see it. It would be madness because of the absolute, the stone cold rise of Islam Makhachev, Father's Plan, Khabib, all the stuff coming together for him to take the belt. Everything's so perfect. If he didn't even defend the title one time, like, do you know how it would set the MMA world on fire, man? That would be something if he dropped it right away.
Right.
I want to see it. I'm an agent of chaos. I want to see it. Shout out to my guy Luke in the chat. That's the club and sub term over there. You already mentioned featherweight is locked at this point because we don't know what's going on with the champ Volkanovski. He doesn't seem like he's going to be rendering that belt anytime soon. But we do have an interesting situation here where Max Holloway is always floating around the top. Arnold Allen has all the hype. Probably a number one contenders fight between Josh Emmett and Yair Rodriguez. And then you've got guys like Movsar, Ilya, Brian Ortega. This is another absolutely stacked weight class, man. Another crazy division. I hope we get some clarity on this one because I would love to talk about some of these names and some of these numbers. Arnold Allen seems like he's on a freaking mission, but I don't want to step anywhere near in front of Ilya Topuria or Movsar Evloev. And honestly, I think those two guys are on a crash course. I think we see Movsar versus Ilya relatively soon. I think we see Emmett versus Rodriguez relatively soon. And as much as I hate to say it, like Max Holloway, I think he's almost fallen into gatekeeper status, man. Until somebody else gets his hands on the belt, there's no point in us seeing him run it back with Volkanovski anymore. And he's, he's kind of lost the shine. He's lost the magic. People don't want to watch him for a title. He's going to have to remind us who he is with a fight or two. And then someone else is going to have to get the belt before we ever see Max Holloway near the title, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, if Volk isn't there, I think Holloway by default is the favorite in the division. So that's why, obviously, we just can't have it open right now. We have no clue what's going to happen with Volk until that fight happens, and we know if he's going to come back down to that weight class. But yeah, this one without Volk there feels very wide open. But he would be a sizable favorite, just like Islam, if he was just staying in that weight class.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. If he loses his bid at 155 and comes back down and retains the title down in his own weight class, I would think that the minus 200-ish price tag would make sense on Volk. And I think the favorite retaining would be the way to go.
Right. With you.
Good deal, man. Now, if Volkanovski disappears, I think we've got the interim title fight, right? So Emmett or Rodriguez, one of those guys is going to get the belt. I'm rooting for my guy, Josh Emmett. I really am. But Yair probably wins the fight. I don't know. I need to look into it a little bit more. But frankly, I don't think either of those guys defend very long. So if we're looking at the end of the year, I think Arnold Allen, Ilya Topuria, Movsar Evloev, those are the guys that are going to be kind of the cream rises. If this line ever opens back up, if Volkanovski is not coming back down to the weight class, Arnold Allen, Ilya Topuria, Movsar Evloev are the guys where I would be looking to try to get in on some long shot numbers to see if they could get the belt by the end of the year.
I'm with you.
All right.
I'm not down on Max like you are, though. I still think if Volk isn't there, I think he gives all of those guys fits. Right. So,
you know what? That's totally fair. He is far and away the number 2 guy, and the only reason we're down on him is because he loses to Volkanovski every time he tries. Yeah. If Volk isn't there, maybe you're right. If Volk isn't there, maybe you take the even money or the 2-1 on Max Holloway, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
now you're looking good.
I think it was a little higher than that. We put numbers in. We had him around 4-1, 5-1. But
Obviously,
it
that'll
really
adjust.
is wide open. Yeah, it will adjust, obviously, with if what happens with Volk. So, yeah.
Good shit. All right, that's going to be exciting, man. I can't wait for that fight, and I can't wait to see what those divisions do afterwards. Bantamweight, maybe one of the most insane weight classes we've talked about yet. Tons of controversy. So much controversy at Bantamweight. Aljamain Sterling is still your champion, folks, at Bantamweight. We've got Henry Cejudo at plus 225, looking like that might be the fight that's coming up next. Chito Vera at 8-1, tied with Piotr Yan and Sean O'Malley. That makes sense because that's just kind of a round robin of who won that last fight. There's history between a couple of those guys. Are they going to run it back? Who gets the title shot first? We don't freaking know. Merab at 30-1, Saeed at 50-1, Umar at 60-1, tied with Ricky Simone at 60-1 also. This is pure insanity. So I'm a Henry Cejudo truther. I think he can beat Aljamain Sterling. I think his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu are good enough to hold up. He probably can win that fight against Aljo. Aljo has shut everybody up, all the questions. He's answered them all. He's rightfully the champion at this point, and at plus 160, you can't hate the stab for him to continue doing that for the rest of the year. But I do think that guys like Sean O'Malley, with the improvements that he's shown, Piotr Yan obviously had that close fight with Aljamain Sterling. If he gets one more win, he's probably right back in the conversation again. And then Marlon Vera, frankly, I need my tinfoil hat for this one. But I think they're trying to set up Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera. It sounds like that is the UFC's plan. They want that fight for a belt, and it makes sense to me. It would be an absolutely banging pay-per-view, even if it's for a vacant title. Like if something weird happens in Aljo versus Cejudo, if they make O'Malley versus Vera 2 and put the belt on the line for it, like I can see something like that happening. Now, Merab at 30-1 has my attention because if Aljo doesn't have the belt anymore, I think Merab makes a beeline for that title and has the skill set to take anybody up there out. It's just a matter of whether or not his brother is still holding the strap at the end of the year. And Umar and Ricky are in the same interesting category to me, where I think they've got the skill set to beat those top guys. It's a matter of if they get a crack at it by the end of the year, and I don't know that they necessarily will. Umar's another one of these future champion types, in my opinion. Will it be this year? I think there's too much that's got to happen, so probably not this year, but I do think he's somebody we need to keep on our radar. Maybe if we do a follow-up show for 2024.
Yeah, definitely. He's a lot of these guys that are lower, I mean, they can be the champion. It's just a matter of how many fights these champions are going to have in the year. This one's a little bit weird because I feel like me and a couple of my coworkers are a little bit higher on Cejudo than the market is. The market, they have opening odds on that Sterling Cejudo fight, and I mean personally, I think Cejudo should be the favorite. The market doesn't agree, so I think between those two, those are obviously your two favorites. I think Cejudo, if I was going to bet any futures, is a good shot if you know he was going to continue fighting after the fight with Sterling. We did take a couple bets on Sean O'Malley. We took a decent-sized bet on Merab, and we took a couple bets on Yan as well. So it does feel pretty open, though, because no one thought Sterling was going to be the champion at the end of last year. I know that's for sure.
For sure. This is another one where I think, honestly, man, just looking at the skill sets and things like that, I really feel like this division, we've talked about some of these being wide open because the champions have shown cracks. This one's wide open. It feels like the golden age of the light heavyweight class, back when like Rampage Jackson and Forrest Griffin, and you know what I mean? The belt changed hands every defense. The skill sets of these guys are so high that I feel like on any given night with the right game plan, any one of these guys can win. So I love this weight class. Absolutely love this weight class. And we've got some sentiment that is shared here from the public. Jared in the chat saying, until the fight's booked and confirmed, I don't care to hear about Cejudo. He's the cringiest man on the internet, second only to yours truly. So I understand why he rubs people the wrong way. but I actually love me some Henry Cejudo. And frankly, man, he was a money train for me. When Henry was at his peak, he was disrespected fight in and fight out, and I just continued to hammer him. And that was one of the best runs I've ever been on, was just backing Henry Cejudo. I will probably have to just go back to that well and hope he still got it, because you can't go against a guy like that when he's showing you how good he is, and he's undervalued because everybody hates him. I like me some Henry Cejudo. Mark is saying quarter unit on Vera Sanhagen and O'Malley and Merab. Logistics of Jan fighting for the belt after 3 losses is low. Agreed. Cejudo is unreliable, and Aljo has said that he will move up after his next fight. Mark, I haven't seen that comment. If Aljo has said that, I'm betting Merab. That's the move right there. And then we've got Brandon Olson in the chat saying both Corey and Merab at 30-1 is intriguing. I agree. The thing is, Corey's another one of these guys to me that I feel like is going to always be a gatekeeper. Like, we know what he is. We know what he does. He just seems to fall short in the big moments, in the close fights. I don't think he's going to be our champion. And I love the guy. So I hate to say that, because he's a fantastic fighter. He's got all the skills to do it. That's just my gut telling me. I don't think he's the guy to get it done, which means, of course, he's your runaway champion. Everybody go bet Corey Sandhagen right now. I would be looking at, personally, probably Merab, probably Sean O'Malley, maybe some Henry Cejudo.
How excited is the UFC to push Merab after his last performance? Because I know, listening to Dana after his last fight, he was not thrilled the way Merab fought that fight. So, I mean, I'm not sure they're ready to push him, but if Aljamain Sterling was to leave the weight class, I could see, I would think that would be a good shot on the flyer. And maybe that's why we got some bets on him already.
Yeah. No, I think that makes some sense. And that's probably a spot that I'll definitely be looking at very interestedly, because I think Merab just continues to maul most of these guys. And he's another guy that I think falls into that undeniable category, right? Like, if his championship training partner leaves the division, vacates the belt, that's a story. They can pick that up and run with it. You know, maybe his last fight was a little bit boring, but let's not forget who he melted the fight right before that. Like, I think he's marketable enough, and we've got a year. We got a whole year for him to do it. So if he goes out there and wins one more, and then we've got another weird situation where they're not sure who's got the title next, maybe he gets shoehorned in there at the end of the year. Like, I don't know. I think Merab is probably decent odds at that, plus 30-1, I guess. We got my guy Sparring with Reality saying Corey's an elite goalkeeper, though, and gatekeeper. I completely agree with you. I'm not trying to disrespect him whatsoever. He is absolutely elite. All right, guys, we're getting down to the last couple divisions here we've got to talk for you. Flyweight, Davison Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno. Davison is the plus 175 favorite to remain champion. Brandon Moreno, the 2-1, close to underdog, I guess. And then you've got Pantoja nipping at his heels at 4-1. Matthias Nicolau, who's been on a heater, at 12-1. Kaikara France, another one of these guys who has proven that he can hang with the best of them and just seems to fall short at 18-1. Another gatekeeper type, in my opinion. Then you've got Albazi, Royval, Mahmoud Muradov, Perez, which I don't know why he's even on here. David Dvorak had 150-1. This one's interesting because if they ran back Figgy versus Moreno 20 times, do it 3 times a year for the rest of my life, I'll watch every single time. That fight is so fun. Those guys are so evenly matched. I love it. Pantoja and Nicolau are both just on the cusp and are elite talented. So either of those guys, I think, is justifiable for a bet. We have a very, very solid question from our Reggae Panda. Where's Kopp? Where are the odds on Manel Kopp to hold the belt at the end of the year?
I'll get him up right after our podcast is over. How about that?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, honestly, man, the way he's been looking, that's a good question.
For real, yeah. That is a good question. He'd be above a couple of these guys, I believe.
I was going to say, off the cuff, like, just kind of, you don't have to stick to this, obviously, but where about do you think you would throw Kopp?
I think probably around 50-ish.
Okay.
I would guess.
That would pique my interest for sure, because he's a stud.
He is awesome, and that last fight was awesome as well. I mean, he would be around Muhammad, I believe. But, yeah, I'd have to take a look.
This division seems like it moves a little bit quicker, and especially if Davison Figueiredo gets dethroned as the champion, he's another one of those fights once or twice a year type of guys. If he gets dethroned, I think the division probably moves around a bit quicker. We could have some rotation here. We've got a couple of votes in the chat already for Pantoja. Everybody's very excited about the 4-1 shot on Pantoja. Yeah. So got some interest brewing there for the short underdog. I would be extremely interested in Makayev at 35-1, Albazi at 25-1, and then probably Pantoja. Those would be the guys that I'd be most interested in.
The way you're saying it really does feel wide open, because like even when you add Cop, a lot of these guys I feel like have a good chance. Like Makayev has to be in the running to get there quickly. I mean, he's awesome. It just depends how many times Figueiredo and Moreno fight. Whoever wins that fight, how often are they going to fight this year? I think Pantoja is a great bet as well. I mean, it feels pretty wide open.
It does. It really does. I think this is an exciting division, and I can't wait for some clarity on this one. And honestly, man, I feel like Figueiredo and Moreno have taken years off each other's lives. Like, I wouldn't be at all shocked if once we get some clarity on that situation after they run it back one more time, if neither of them is just the same ever again going forward. Like if somebody else is able to step right up, almost the way that with Daniel Cormier and Stipe, when they got done with that trilogy, it was like, well, next man up gets the damn belt, because these guys put everything they had into that last year where they kept car crashing against each other. I'm not saying, that they're busted or anything like that. Both guys are elite and have massively high ceilings. But I could see that next hungry lion being able to take down the corpse of whoever remained with the belt after that next fight, unfortunately. So this one's gonna be fun.
I like Nicolau a lot as well. Like, I think he could. I would not be shocked if he gets the title. It's just, I know he has a contract situation. I don't know if they've settled that, and he's for sure fighting in the UFC. I'm not too sure about that, but I feel like he's got a great chance as well.
Yeah, so honestly, man, I think I'm pretty solid on this one. I like Pantoja as probably the runaway favorite for me personally. And then you've got Albazi and Makayev as the long shots that I'd be extremely interested in. Manel Kopp, if you throw him in there in the ballpark of 50-1, he would be another flyer that I might be interested in. But that's a fun weight class. You guys can make a justifiable argument for a lot of these guys in here, and you've got some good numbers too. So that one's going to be fun. Next, we head over to the ladies. We got the women's bantamweight champion. Nunes is the minus 250 favorite, and it's hard to argue that. Valentina Shevchenko is the next shortest option here. I wonder if we get them running back that trilogy fight. Juliana Pena at 10-1, Ketlin Vieira, Irene Aldana, Raquel Pennington, Holling Holm, Carol Hossa, and Piani Kanzad. I mean, these names just, man, Juliana Pena is the only one that I would be interested in personally at all. They're 1-1, her and the champ. And even though she got the breaks beaten off of her in that last fight, she put Amanda in a couple of tricky spots. She had Amanda in danger a couple times, and she is campaigning hard for that rubber match for that third fight. She, again, would be the one that I'd be very interested to go back on and see if maybe Pena can pull off some magic one more time, because Nunes has been around forever. She is getting older. She has started a family. Like, I don't know how long she's going to retain this top tier championship aura. We've seen all these other favorites go down in the last year. It's coming, folks. It's coming. And like my guy Sparring with Reality says, Nunes could retire. We are not that far off from that being a reality. So I'd be looking at who's going to be the next woman up. Maybe someone like Irene Aldana. The way she hits is intriguing to me. She hits really hard. Ketlin Vieira's ground game is very impressive, and we've seen that be a problem for Nunes also in the past. So, yeah, man, those 10, 12, and 16-1 flyers. I love my girl Rocky, but I don't think she's ever going to quite get there. She's also that same age where she can hang it up at the end of the year too. So this one seems like a complete pass for me. I'm not laying minus 250 on Amanda Nunes. Let the geniuses come in and back up the dump truck and unload and have a sweat-free casher on Nunes to be the champion at the beginning of 2024, but it ain't me.
Yeah, this is it seems like the people pretty much agree with you on this weight class. We've only really taken any action on Nunes and Shevchenko. I'm not sure if that's the fight that's going to happen next. I would assume they would push for that one sometime this year. But like, if Nunes retires, it changes everything, obviously. But
Yep.
right now, I couldn't really justify anybody else in the division. Maybe Shevchenko has a chance, but yeah.
And my guy sparring with reality saying if Rocky beats Ketlin next week, she's right there though. I was like,
Yeah,
that
she'll
is
probably get a shot.
very true. That is very true. But that's another one, man, where we've seen what happens when Rocky fights Amanda Nunes already. I don't know if enough has changed unless Nunes really is just ready to hang it up at this point. I feel like she's a bad matchup for Rocky personally, but I don't know. We'll see, man. We'll see. I wouldn't be too confident in putting money on anything for this one, man. I do think the UFC, especially with Valentina Shevchenko's last fight, is probably looking to do the super fight before either of them loses their luster. Like now's the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
I think so too.
you gotta do it now before one of them loses another step.
Yeah, I think so too.
And on that discussion thread, we're gonna go women's flyweight. Valentina Shevchenko is the large favorite here in this spot. Talia Santos at 7-1 right away, man. That one's got my attention. Alexa Grasso at 18-1, Erin Blanchfield at 12-1. Those are solid opportunities, in my opinion, because we've seen Valentina Shevchenko look human a couple times in her last couple fights. I think she's also very much in the ballpark of Nunes, maybe even further along, where one more bad fight. Like, I don't know how much longer she is going to be the reigning champion of this division, whether she hangs it up or somebody gets the better of her. I think it's coming. I think it's coming soon. Talia Santos at 7-1. I know my guy Liam Picks Fights is probably just licking his chops right now at that number because she will probably be able to do exactly what we saw her do in the last fight and then just get her hand raised at the end of it in the next year if they give her the opportunity. So that's the big question for me is who gets the fight? I think Erin Blanchfield is maybe the most talented fighter on this roster. It's just a matter of whether or not she gets the crack at it. 12-1's a decent number. I love me some Alexa Grasso. I don't know that she's got the skill set to beat a Valentina Shevchenko, so you'd already have to have Val lose the belt and then somebody else that's maybe a better stylistic matchup for Alexa to get there. As much as I love her and I want to bet her, that'd be a heart bet. I don't think she gets it. So Tracy Cortez at 50-1 is also a little bit interesting just because of how good of a grappler she is. She's mentioned having some like mental health issues and things like that. So I don't know if she's going to be dialed in. I don't know if she's going to be that ironclad championship caliber. So, you know, maybe just like an itty bitty little flyer there on Tracy at 50-1. But if Val gets dethroned, this is another weight class that there's going to be a mad scramble. I think Blanchfield and Talia Santos would be the two I'd be looking at.
Yeah, so we took a few bets in this weight class. It seems like people are pretty interested in this one. We took a bet on Talia Santos. We have some money on Blanchfield. And we took a couple big bets on Grasso, where we moved the line from 25-1 down to 18-1. We just don't know who's going to get the shot, really. That's where we're at right now. You got to figure, even if Valentina loses, she is likely to get a rematch, which would mean she has two shots at beating any of these people, which I like her chances. That's why she's such a big favorite. But like you said, with Nunes and Shevchenko, how long is it going to last? If it's over this year, it's wide open, and you can get some really good value on some of these other girls.
Absolutely. So we have got Reggae saying it's Fiora's time, which, hey, good luck to you. I think the grappling weakness is going to bite her at some point, but she definitely has the stand-up to do it. My guy sparring with Ratty says Blanche is the best value at 12-1. I kind of tend to agree a little bit with that statement. Like I said, she's one of my top two picks, the only two that I would be looking at. And
she's awesome.
Yeah. No, this is fun. This is super fun. Definitely want to look at this one a little bit closer, but I think Talia Santos and Blanchfield may be getting a little bit of my money. All right, everybody, Women's Strawweight Championship up next. Zhang Weili, the -135 favorite to retain her title. Rose Namajunas, the +275. Short-priced underdog. Amanda Lemos making her debut here at 8-1. Andrade at 18-1. Yan Jiaonan 14-1. Marina Rodriguez at 35-1. Poor Carla Esparza all the way down at 60-1. And then, of course, you've got Luana Pinheiro and Yasmin Rodriguez making their faces known. This is another one where I think we just started the dynasty, Andrew. I think we just got to the beginning of Wiley's greatness. I would side with the favorite. I think she defends. I think she keeps. I know we've got some big challenges ahead here for her, but I think she's more well-rounded than any of these fighters. I worry about the mental state of Rose Namajunas. I mean, we just saw in her last fight, she got taken down, smothered, and choked out by my girl, Jillian Robertson. I know it's a weight class difference, but like, that looked easy. I feel like she was showing up just for a paycheck there in that spot. I don't know how interested she is in coming back and making another bid for the belt. Andrade at 18-1 seems like value just because she's so tough, so powerful, so well-rounded, hits so hard. That seems like a spot you could throw your money in. Marina Rodriguez also with some of those physical cheat codes, the height, the reach, the striking. But at the end of the day, I think Zhang beats everybody. I think Zhang beats them all. And because of that, I think she probably keeps her belt and sits as the champion again starting next year.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, she's lost to Rose twice. So, I mean, the second one was very close. But if Rose is the same Rose that fought her the first two times, I think there could be value there. We did take a big bet on Jessica Andrade. I don't know how she really matches up with Weili Zhang though. I mean, I'm with you. I'm all in on Weili Zhang. I think she will be the champion, and I think the odds kind of show that. It is crazy.
You're betting on the car crash there, man. If you're going with Andrade, 20-1, you're betting she lands a bomb, which that's not a bad number to bet that she lands a bomb. But I'm with you.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how far Carla has fallen. I mean, yeah, I know my boss is not the biggest Carla fan, and we got blasted when she ended up beating Rose.
That was
I don't see
that was a whole thing, man. I still don't really completely understand what happened. I know some very sharp people, and it's funny because I was this close to betting Carla myself. That's one of those ones where, like, you can make the value argument, but the way it played out, I'm like, shit, man. Like, nobody can stand here with a straight face and tell me that was a good bet. Like,
that was a tough beat for us for sure. I know we were big Rose fans in that fight, and that was a bummer.
Yeah,
but
I know the bookies got washed on that one for sure.
I'm with you. I'm with you on this weight class. I'm all in on Weili Zhang. I don't know if any of these girls are going to beat her.
Yeah, for sure. At least not soon. And that's the big thing, right? We're talking 1 year, one calendar year.
1 year.
Shout out my guy, my parlay bet saying just got up, got to start from the beginning. Shout out. Thanks for jumping in, man. Definitely appreciate it. We've got Brandon saying probably not 23, but would like to see Polyana Viana keep starching people. Jinu Frey climb to the top. I think Frey's time is come and gone. I think she's going to be a gatekeeper personally. She shouldn't be in the conversation. But if Polyana keeps making improvements, she's young, she's good, she could get there. Not this year, but maybe we can talk about her next year. And then sparring with Yade saying Draghi for the culture. Absolutely. You know, those ladies coming up right now are extremely interesting. Awesome. We've only got so many fights in the year. I don't think she'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, the future is looking bright in some of these weight classes for sure.
For sure. So, I mean, just to like roll back and recap what I'm looking at, I think Zhang in this weight class is probably a nice bet at -135 if you can tie up the funds. Blanchfield and Talia Santos at women's flyweight would be the two at nice, decent numbers that I would be looking at. I'm not touching women's bantamweight, frankly. We'll just leave that alone. If I was going to make a bet at flyweight for the men, I might go with Muhammad Mukayev. I really might. Muhammad Mukayev or Amir Albazi, maybe those would be the two I'd be poking at. And guys, this is where I'd be, if I did make any of these bets, it'd be smaller ones. I'm not rolling in with $1,000 to try to make half my year's paycheck or anything. I'd be taking small little pokes at this because the UFC is so political right now, and so much of this stuff is giant question marks. Like, you'd have to be careful making these types of long shots because you're locking that money up for a full calendar year. But I do think there's some opportunities. I would be looking at Merab at 30-1 for men's bantamweight, and then maybe Sean O'Malley, just because we know he's got that hype. We know they want him to be the belt holder. So I do think those two have the best chance probably of hitting there. We'll wait and see what happens at men's featherweight. If we're looking at lightweight, I think that Arman Saryukian or just laying the wood with Islam would be the way to go. And then if we're looking at welterweight, again, like I said, maybe chalky because these guys might not fight more than once a year. But I think Shavkat Rakhmonov might be the way to go. Shavkat or Khamzat would be the two that I'd be looking at putting my money on. Middleweight, we talked about this one a lot. I'd be looking grapplers. Bo Nickel, Marvin Vettori, maybe Andre Muniz. Those would be the spots that I'd be trying to get my money in. But again, it's so wild, man. Wait until you hear what Hamzat's doing. Because if Hamzat's coming up, then maybe we just look at hammering Hamzat. I'd be saying Jamal Hill to go ahead and retain the title, be the man at the end of the year. Go ahead and just hang on to the damn thing. And I'm sticking with the king. Francis Ngannou. I would be laying the chalk up at heavyweight again myself. Folks, that is the I don't know, we didn't even, what's the name for this show? We got the champions report here from SuperBook Sports. Andrew, thank you for the time. Thank you for the opportunity. These lines are cool. These lines are fun. Everybody else, all the other major sports get to bet this kind of shit, so we're excited to get in on the action. Definitely appreciate you talking through your thought process and putting these numbers up for us to bet.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited for the future. It feels like this is definitely one of the most growing sports. So let's hope we get some more action year by year on these things and the sport continues to grow the way it has been.
Absolutely. We're headed the right way. And of course, SuperBook Sports also expanding and growing. We've got some more states that are unrolling very soon. So that's exciting news. Everybody, smash the like button for me here if you haven't. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. And of course, we've got awesome bonuses and things like that every week when we've got the UFC events, I shout out on Twitter for SuperBook Sports. Make sure you follow us over there. Give Andrew a follow. He's a great follow on Twitter as well. Lots of fun banter on there. And we will be back very, very soon with some good stuff. We've got a big pay-per-view right around the corner, and Andrew and I will be doing a sharp action report. And of course, fights start next week. So love you guys. Good luck if you're betting anything. College football, NFL this weekend. Shit's about to get crazy, but we'll be back with the MMA action for you next week. Andrew, anything to say before we cut you loose?
No, just follow me on Twitter if you haven't. Sign up with SuperBook. Keep an eye out on some of the boosts we offer. I mean, I feel like they're extremely generous, and I appreciate it.
The knockout bonus, man. The UFC pay-per-view KO bonus. That's where it's at. You just root for knockouts. Bet the main or the co-main event, and then keep hoping people get finished. That's the fun one. All right, everybody. We'll let you go. Have a wonderful week. Thank you all, and let's roll.